Hello book dragons, it's Alyssa and you're watching Pages in Ink. I'm sorry if you, one, hear my voice and it sounds awful, or you hear yard work outside. My neighbor is working in their yard and this was the only time I was able to film. Oh, and I'm really sorry if I'm not super energetic. I just still feel terrible. What are you gonna do? So it wasn't the absolute worst reading month for me. I did get through 6 books. They were all young adult or middle grade reads. I just read what I read and listened to what I listened to, but I got through 6, which is a pretty big deal considering I was out of commission for 2 weeks. Oh, what am I doing with my life? I was very disappointed when I got to Enchanté by Gita Trelease. And most of you know that this was one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year, but it was not what I was looking for, expecting, or wanting. It started putting me in a reading slump and I just didn't even want to read. I got about 25% of the way through before I just decided it wasn't for me. It's not that it was poorly written or anything, it just wasn't, I just wasn't feeling it. My next book that I read was Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto. So this book follows 3 different perspectives. 2 of the perspectives, like their storylines collide and they end up being in the same area. So the same major events that happen are just told from their 2 different points of view. This book is about a war that happened 16 years prior between the potential queens of the land. One of them was backed by the Empire, the other one was backed by the Animages and Phoenix Riders. So the Empire outlaws Animage magic, which is where you can speak to and or control animals. They slaughter all the phoenixes and kill or imprison all the Phoenix Riders. There is a small resistance that is trying to bring back the Phoenix Riders. We have Veronica, whose sister Val betrays her and she goes out on her own. We have Tristan, who is a part of the rebellion to bring back the Phoenix Riders. And then we have Sev, who is a soldier for the Empire. I have heard nothing but good things about this book. I just had a lot of problems with it. One of the biggest issues I had with this book was the lack of storytelling and the emphasis on info dumping. I had to literally trudge through this book to get through it. Meg's listened to it on audiobook and finally got to like 2.5 setting because she just couldn't handle listening to the same thing over and over again. I only gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I finished it. So the next 2 books I'm going to talk about are part of the same series, so I'm just going to lump them together. And that is The House of Hades and The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. This is the 5th and final book in the Heroes of Olympus series, which is the companion series to the Percy Jackson one. These I did listen to on audiobook. This was when I was laying in bed and couldn't do anything else. So I got through both of them. They were very lackluster for me. I gave this one a 3.5 and I was so disappointed in this one. I gave it a 3, but it's a low 3 for me. I just felt like as the finale or the final book, it should have been absolutely incredible, and it wasn't. It was very long and boring, and that was one of my complaints about this book as well. I don't want to go into too much detail about anything because I don't want to give away any spoilers at all. I hate spoilers. But compared to the Percy Jackson series and the way that Rick Riordan set up the final book in that series, this was completely different. I will continue reading everything Rick Riordan writes because I just love his take on mythology, but I just wish that this particular series didn't exist. I read volume 1 and 2. I can't find volume 1 anywhere. Of Fence by C.S. Pacat, Joanna the Mad, and Joanna Lafuente. It follows a boy named Nicholas who is the illegitimate son of like a fencing champion, and he wants nothing more than to be a fencing champion. He gets a scholarship to this school for fencing, but he has to make the team. The only problem is his roommate is the #2 ranking fencer in the world and is kind of a butthole. I loved this so much. I enjoyed this one and I enjoyed volume 1 and I can't wait to continue with the series. It was so cute and just so enthralling. I never thought that fencing or the subject of fencing would be something that I would be captivated by, but I was. And so I gave both of these 4 stars out of 5. It was very good. I highly recommend it. And the artwork is so freaking cute. I can't handle it. Now, the final book on my list for the month of March of books that I finished is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This book is so surprising. I know why no one really goes into the story plot of this book. It kind of just gives everything away. But it does follow an orphan named Laszlo Strange, and he is obsessed with the unseen city, or the city of Weep. And it is this magical city that doesn't allow outsiders, and it disappeared 200 years prior. He works as a junior librarian, and in his free time he writes down and studies and researches all he can on what he calls the unseen city, even though everyone tells him to get his head out of the clouds. I do have to say that there was one problem that I did have with the writing in this book, and it was kind of the same problem that I had with The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and that is that so much happens in the writing but not much happens in the book. So to explain it, I did really enjoy it. So to go further and like explain what I really mean, while I was reading this, same thing as Name of the Wind, while I'm actually reading it and in the world, I am just enraptured by it and can't get enough. But the second that I walk away or put the book down, I start thinking, what actually happened? Like, what did I actually read? Did anything really happen, or was it just all filler? I did have that issue with it. Otherwise, I loved this book. I can see why some people say that this is their favorite book of all time. It's just so beautiful and well written, and I love Laszlo in this book. I absolutely loved him, but it is very character driven. Like I said, not a lot happens in it, but you feel like a lot happens. I was debating if I was gonna give it 5 out of 5 stars. But I had the same issue with Name of the Wind, where when I really think about it, I don't think it's 5 stars for me. But when I like think back on the story, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a 5-star book. But then when I really start focusing on the plot and the story and the characters, it goes into a 4-star. It's hard to explain, but this is a 4-star, maybe 5 on a good day, but it was so good. It was so good. It's a very high 4-star. It's probably more like a 4 point. I'm gonna say it's a 4.5. So ignore where I said it's a 4-star. It is a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was so close to being a 5-star, but 4.5. Let's see how many times I can say that in this video. 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I want to talk about is a book that I started in March right before the flu hit, and I didn't finish it. One, because she's a thick lady, and 2, I just wasn't feeling well, but I'm going to continue that in April, and that is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. It is a standalone fantasy novel that involves dragons and a queendom and different kingdoms and political maneuvering, and it's a very interesting story. I'm just at the point where I'm finishing part 1, and there's 6 parts in this. I'm really enjoying it so far. That's all I'm gonna say, and I'll let you know more in my April wrap up what I thought of this book, but I'm pretty sure that you guys have seen this all over BookTube, so I'm one of those booktubers. What can I say? I lied, there's one more. So technically I read this March 31st. I listened to it on an audiobook. I read And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Frederick Bachman, and that was a 5-star read, hands down. Absolutely loved it. Cried my eyes out. It was so beautiful, and his writing is just so perfect, and just he's one of my favorite authors. And this story follows a grandfather who is dealing with Alzheimer's. And it's just so poetic and very sad, but very beautiful at the same time. And it's just like a little slice of life in this story. And I just loved it so, so much. So I did read that, so I lied. I think I got through technically 7, even though this was a novella. But that's it. Those are the books that I read in the month of March. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to join the Book Dragon family, we'd absolutely love to have you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, let me know your thoughts on them. If any of them sound interesting to you, let me know as well. And as always, until next time, remember to be nice to yourself and be kind to others. Bye!